Right. Well, hello. My film is called Runner. It is a short film about loyalty, betrayal, and leadership. It's going to be all packed into an action type story. It's going to be a crime action genre style film. The focus of my story is about a protagonist who has been betrayed, and he has to escape from his previous life of crime. He was part of a gang or a syndicate of some kind, and basically, on a routine patrol, our protagonist is sent to a smuggling route that was recently raided. And once he arrives, he basically will explain that the gang had actually managed to hide anything important from the raid. So, unfortunately, all the police gained was just a loss of life. This is where his partner will betray him and attempt to take his life. Our protagonist escapes, of course, and this is where he begins to flee. Um, Obviously, this is where our protagonist's partner will go and tell all of the remaining members of the syndicate that our protagonist has betrayed them. He'll be called by the gang's leader, and he has been lied to. He believes our protagonist is a traitor, setting off the motions of the film. At first, our protagonist is generally just chased by simple goons trying to make a name for themselves, people lower down the ladder, really not that competent. Um, but basically, I'll try and get some simple axes to use. I'm not going to go in depth with the combat, but it'll be a little bit of a rough scuffle, I guess. Our character will easily win the fight. I guess he's much more skilled than them. He's been in this life for a while, so he easily wins the fight. To escalate, the gang ends up hiring a professional hitman who shall take on the role of the main antagonist of this film. This leads to multiple chase scenes and combat encounters. And after escaping and from finally dispatching the hitman from a chase to a action sequence, he'll proceed to head home and take some stuff, a possible bargaining chip, and he will burn down his home, faking his death. Overall, the maximum runtime of the film would be roughly 15 minutes, and I feel the minimum would be roughly around 10 minutes. I don't want to make it too long, but also don't want to make it too short enough to accurately tell my story. And I feel that 10 to 15 minutes is a good enough amount of time to be able to get some decent cinematography and also be able to tell my story at a balanced pace while also being able to pick it up where I need to. My target audience. I want to kind of keep my target audience mature. It's generally going to be 15 plus. My film isn't going to be too gory or using any illicit drugs or anything, but it's a mature film with some older themes, and so I'd like to keep it to older audience who I think will understand the film best and therefore will be able to really enjoy it more. I feel that people often watch films with company, with friends, with family, and so I'd like to make the film seem realistic and acceptable, but also enjoyable. This is meant to be entertainment after all. My film, I want to try and make it appealing to a bit of a younger generation through its style, similar to Baby Driver was one of my main pieces of inspiration. I feel a good balance between a serious tone with the story, but mixes with upbeat music like Edgar Wright does with Baby Driver. It's a really, really good way to appeal to a younger audience while also still keeping it entertaining. After all, the film had really, really, really good music, but also managed to know how to use it in a really serious tone and keep us hooked and enjoying. While my film may not be super relatable, after all, no one's really living an extreme life of crime, I'd like to make it appeal to people in lower demographics, but middle class or lower. I feel like I really want to explore the reason why someone would kind of join a criminal syndicate. While this isn't going to be a backstory or anything, I feel like giving a bit of an explanation on how some people really get forced into these situations would be a really good way to make the character more appealing. And I feel that my main target audience might be teenagers and older men with my age rating set, and I feel that would make it much more enjoyable and relatable with everyone involved. I'd also like to keep it just open to anyone, boys, girls, mature ages, and whatnot. I feel that if I look on the more complex side of the spectrum with my viewers, I think I'm going to try and appeal to the psychographics of explorers and aspirers, and maybe some resigned and strugglers. Since I feel that they're typically younger psychographics, and I feel I can connect more with people around my own age as a creator than older people through my work. After all, I don't have the same experience, and I haven't lived as long or gone through enough experience with life to accurately appeal to an older generation. My biggest source of inspiration was definitely Baby Driver by Edgar Wright. The idea was a bit of a random conversation with my friend for this unit. He and I were talking about what I should do, and I was at the time browsing YouTube, and the 6 minute intro for Baby Driver had appeared in my recommended, um, and I decided I wanted to try and make a film like that. I frequently watched that 6 minute clip because I enjoyed it every time I watched it, and I kind of clicked with the idea, and I kind of wanted to see if I could make something similar. As I never really made an action film before, I just really hope that I can pull it off well enough. Researching, from my research, I've definitely learned that short films, the primary content has to be the action scene. I shouldn't get confused, and I should try and keep the scene tense and enjoyable, but still coherent. So not too much shaky cam. Kind of like a John Wick, how it's very centered, and you can really easily follow the action and understand what's happening. As for my story, with my research, I've kind of learned that I can be a bit more lax with it. People are generally coming in knowing it's an action film. I had a strong plan, but I was really conflicted with how I was going to pull it off. But I started thinking, and after watching and researching a couple more short films, I actually really understood that the story, while important, doesn't need to be extremely striking because a lot of people are mainly there for the story as a bit of a side dish, in my opinion, and the combat and the action is taking a bit more of a center stage with keeping people hooked. After all, the story could be amazing, but if the action's a bit lax, then it's just going to seem boring when those scenes come on. I think if I can find a perfect balance between them, then I'll be able to get a really, really good film. And so I restructured what my film would look like in my head. Researching those videos and the short films really gave me some tips on breaking up lighting in scenes and making it detailed. It definitely showed me things I wasn't aware of before, and now I'm definitely going to try and make the film as best as I possibly can. And I really, really hope to apply these techniques into my film. Finally, in the event of another lockdown, I probably wouldn't be able to record any major scenes unless I'd already gotten them done. I don't think that it's very likely, but just in case it just comes way out of left field, I think my backup plan is to still keep going with the same plan, the same film, but instead I'm going to condense it down to a trailer type format, similar to how you've got Mission Impossible, John Wick once again, Baby Driver. I'd be creating a trailer which is showing the story still with some action scenes, but this way I'm not pushing myself far enough to try and create an entire project. This way I'm still creating my project, but on a much smaller scale and a much smaller tease. I did think that I could attempt some other form of still being able to create it all with, say, animation or something, but I'm not personally a great animator, and so that's why I came to the conclusion of I'll cut it down and make a trailer version of the film. This way I can get a simplified version of my final project, but still tease the action and the story, and then possibly make it later as a proper project. And thank you for coming and listening to my pitch. That will be all.